Sorry. It's Mike Folkert, F like Fox, O-L-K-E-R-T like Tom, S. I'm the National Transportation Safety Board. I'm an air safety investigator. I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I'd like to start the briefing by offering my condolences to the family and friends who were affected by this tragedy. I'd also like to thank the local law enforcement as well as the first responders that came to the accident to help us out. They've been awesome support. I'd just like to pass along our thanks from the National Transportation Safety Board to that. You know, every accident is a tragedy. When we respond to the accidents, our three areas that we look into for factors are primarily the man, the machine, and the environment. So from the man perspective, we'll look at his training, his experience, his currency, any physical or medical issues that might affect him. For the aircraft, we'll look at the the maintenance records. For the aircraft, we look at any of the components from the engine to the flight controls to the avionics that might have influenced the airworthiness of the aircraft. And then for the environment, we're going to look at the weather that was in play at the time, as well as the local terrain and topography of this area that might have influenced the accident. From those factors, we move on to potential recommendations that might prevent another tragedy, and we go from there. A few of the folks that were here to help us out today, we had the Little Rock Flight Standards District Office that assisted with the investigation. They were actually first on scene and secured the site on yesterday. We also have representatives from the aircraft manufacturer, which is Textron Aviation, as well as the engine manufacturer, which is Continental Engines. Okay, a little idea on the timeline. The preliminary report will be out in about 10 days from now. You can access that preliminary report at ntsb.gov. The accident report, the factual portion of that, normally takes 6 to 12 months to release. And then after that, the NTSB board in Washington, D.C. will release the brief report, and that's usually at about the 1-year time frame for a fatal accident like this one. Some details that I can release with you today. The aircraft departed from the Russellville Airport at 7:54 yesterday, Central Daylight Time. The aircraft was a Raytheon Beech A36. It was manufactured in 2000. The registration is November 3 Bravo Echo. For the pilot, he did have a commercial license. He was instrument rated, an experienced pilot with over 12,000 flight hours as of his last spring's medical. The airport environment here, the weather at the time of the accident was 200 feet overcast with 4 miles visibility. And that was with fog. The temperature was 12 degrees centigrade and the dew point was 11 degrees centigrade. Can I open it up to some questions from you?
Describe what you saw. Describe the crash site.
Okay. The crash site is up here a couple hundred feet in elevation, impacted through the trees onto the side of a hill. The aircraft did burn substantially and was consumed by fire.
Cut to it. You've got a lot of work to do. Do you think you'll know what happened and what caused this?
You know, when we come to the accident site, our intention is to be as thorough as possible, to look at each area. We certainly will come to conclusions with the accident, but that takes time.
Was an IFR flight plan filed?
Yes, the aircraft had an instrument flight rules flight plan filed from Russellville out to Knoxville, McGee-Tyson Airport, Tennessee.
Okay. Was the pilot listed on the flight plan?
Yes.
You talked about visibility. Explain for somebody who doesn't know. What does that mean? Was it very foggy? Could you see, in layman's terms, what did that mean?
Visibility of 4 miles, that means with your eye you can see for 4 miles. So decent visibility.
Once you arrived on scene here today and have spent a portion of the day checking out some of the initial ideas you might have, do you have a preliminary, some things that really stood out that you thought could be contributing factors? I know you can't comment on anything final, but any contributing factors that you might be able to illustrate?
You know, at this time we'd ask you to look at the preliminary report that'll be available within 10 days on ntsb.gov, and we'll put those areas in there.
Were you able to? I know you always look for electronic or GPS. Were you able to recover devices that you were looking for?
Yeah, we were able to recover what we were looking for. Obviously, a lot of fire damage with this particular accident, so some of those items aren't able to be tested, and we're gonna just have to go from there.
And we always ask what's next. If I had to guess, you gather the pieces and you store them and you look closely at them. You investigate.
Correct.
Any final ruling on the identities yet? I know that the State Crime Lab is at this hour looking at and evaluating those individuals. Can you comment on that, or do you prefer that to come locally?
Yeah, the NTSB as a policy does not comment on those. It just, if you could make those requests through the local law enforcement.